Welcome to Brewster Dairy's Contractor Safety Orientation. This video contains very important information that will ensure your safety while working at our facility. Please pay close attention. There will be a test at the end. This video is designed to reinforce the training you hopefully have already received from your current employer. If you have not received any type of formal training, such as OSHA 10 or OSHA 30, or are unfamiliar with terms such as lockout, tagout, please let your employer and Brewster Dairy know immediately. It should be noted that our safety practices are designed specifically for working at Brewster Dairy. If your employer requires more stringent safety procedures than what are mentioned in this video, please follow your employer's safety requirements. If this is your first time here, welcome to Brewster Dairy. We have been in business since 1965 and produce approximately 45 million pounds of Swiss cheese and 20 million pounds of whey products each year. We have 180 employees working in 3 primary divisions: cheese making, the whey products plant, and cutting and packaging. As a food manufacturing plant, we have to ensure both your safety as well as that of the products we produce. As such, the use of safety glasses, earplugs, and hairnets are mandatory throughout the facility. The only exception to this rule is that you do not need to wear a hairnet while performing hot work. Some tasks may require the use of other personal protective equipment, such as dust masks or respirators, when appropriate for the task at hand. Eating, drinking, or the use of tobacco products is prohibited at all times while inside the production areas. There are break rooms available for your use, as well as 2 locations where smoking is permitted. Please ask a supervisor to direct you to the nearest locations. You will soon discover that the cheese and whey processing areas are inherently hot and wet environments. The upper levels of the whey products plant can reach well over 100 degrees even in winter. If working in these areas, please be aware of the heat and limit your exposure as necessary to ensure your safety. Throughout our facility, you will notice that we use many different types of powered trucks. You may be permitted to use our machines if your supervisor and Brewster both agree and your skill has been demonstrated. We do request that when at all possible, forks are kept at a height of 3 to 4 inches above the ground, or if applicable, pointed downwards while in motion. We also have many confined spaces within our facility, and it is possible you'll be working in those areas. We expect that you have already received training on how to properly enter and exit a confined space, as well as received fit testing for the appropriate respiratory equipment should it be necessary. If you have any questions on a specific location, please ask a supervisor prior to entering the space. At a bare minimum, we require a 3-person crew for each entry team, and that the area is checked for poisonous gases prior to entry. At Brewster Dairy, all of our confined spaces are considered permit-required spaces. We also ask that if you see a confined entry in progress, please stay well away and do not interfere with their work. Often, confined entry accidents happen due to distractions from workers not directly involved with the mission. Permits are required for a variety of tasks around the facility. If you are entering any confined space, performing hot work, or breaking into any pipe or line, please speak with a supervisor to obtain the necessary permits prior to performing the work. When working on our equipment, please remember standard lockout, tagout practices. At Brewster Dairy, we use electrical, thermal, hydraulic, and pneumatic sources for our machinery, and all must be safely de-energized prior to performing maintenance. We require that every team member working on a device individually lock out the equipment, and the use of multi-hasps is recommended for this task. If there are more than 6 members on your team, you may use additional multi-hasps as needed. If you're unable to physically lock out a device, at a bare minimum the device may be tagged out, although we strongly recommend that someone remains at the tagged location to prevent accidental activation of the device. Also, our equipment uses a variety of electrical voltages, so please check for multiple 110, 220, and 480 volt circuits prior to starting work. Many of our electrical closets and motor control rooms contain arc flash hazards. You can recognize an arc flash area by these painted lines on the floor. We also have labeled all of our machines with the appropriate level of caution. Please remember to wear the appropriate FR-rated clothing when working in these areas. Ladders continue to be one of the leading causes of accidents in the United States, and this is primarily due to user complacency. While ladders are inherently safe, please take a moment to remind yourself of a few simple measures that will help ensure your safety. When using an A-frame ladder, remember that the top 2 steps are never to be used. If you need to reach higher, get a bigger ladder. In general, we prohibit the use of an A-frame ladder by leaning it against a wall. However, we accept that there are rare instances where it is impossible for any other type of lift or ladder to be used. In these circumstances, ensure that someone supports the base of the ladder while in use. If using a ladder to reach the roof, remember to extend the top of the ladder at least 3 rungs above the roof line. We also require you to tie off the ladder at the top whenever possible. Lastly, always keep your center mass between the rungs of the ladder. If you need to reach further to the side, either move the ladder or use a scissor lift instead. We strongly encourage the use of scissor or boom lifts when working in high locations. If using a boom lift, please remember to wear a harness or restraint lanyard and to secure it firmly to the tie-off point. We mentioned earlier that the cheese-making process is inherently hot and wet. Because of this, the vast majority of our floors are wet and slippery. Please remember to wear non-slip shoes and, if you see a potential hazard, to report it to a supervisor immediately. We use a variety of chemicals in our facility, and HAZCOM safety data sheets are available for your reference. The most common chemicals of note are chlorine, various acids, and caustic materials, which we use for cleaning. We also use anhydrous ammonia in our refrigeration systems. When working in a location where exposure to ammonia is possible, such as in a pump room, emergency breathing masks are to be carried at all times. They are located outside the entrance to each area. In the case of an ammonia leak, building evacuation is mandatory. These maps show the safety equipment, evacuation areas, shelter areas, and the routes to be taken should an evacuation or retreat to a storm shelter be necessary. Emergencies within the facility are announced using a color-coded system. Memorize this chart so that you know the correct response to each emergency. A code yellow is used anytime an emergency response team is required. This could be for a medical emergency or for a fire. In case of a fire, Brewster Dairy has about 105 fire extinguishers and 48 employees who are trained on their use. If you see a fire and are trained on the proper use of an extinguisher, you may choose to extinguish the fire yourself, or notify a member of staff who will announce the code yellow. Code green is used for weather emergencies. Once issued, it is expected that all personnel will retreat to the shelter areas immediately. Code white is issued when there is a dangerous release of chemicals that requires a plant evacuation, or shelter in place as announced. Code red is issued for evacuation due to fire, typically involving a fire that cannot be extinguished by the first responders. A code gray is issued for all power outages. Should the facility lose electricity, leave your work area immediately and proceed to the nearest break room. The only exception is if you are working in the whey products plant. If so, head towards the front control room. Finally, code black is issued in cases of violence or terrorism. Should this occur, follow the instructions given by your supervisor. Brewster Dairy is committed to your safety, and we sincerely thank you for your attention. If you have questions on anything you have just seen, please ask your supervisor. We look forward to working with you.